by Ryan Roden. Publisher Little Brown Books for young readers. When we're thrown into the world of knives, drugs, and life-threatening situations within the first 2 pages, we know we're going to have to hang on for a ride. The Walled City, presented by Alvina Ling.
Thank you. So I'm really excited to be buzzing about Ryan Rowden, I think. Rowden's The Walled City. So like all of my fellow editors up here, sometimes I get into a reading slump. You know, I read so many submissions, so many books, and sometimes I just start feeling the same. And that was the state I was in when I first read The Walled City, and it completely got me out of my reading slump. It was so different, so fresh, so beautifully written, and I just fell in love with it immediately. So one of the many things I love about this book is it's hard to categorize. I call it genre bending, but it also has a little bit of gender bending as well, and I'll talk about both of these aspects later on. But the first thing I have to talk about when I talk about The Walled City is the setting, because the setting is incredible. So this book is based in a fictional version of a place that existed in real life called the Kowloon Walled City. Has anyone here heard of the Kowloon Walled City? No. So I really recommend Googling it immediately, or when you go home. It's Kowloon, because the images you'll see of this place are incredible. Like, you won't believe that this place was really real. As Ryan described it, the Walled City was a sunless, lawless shanty town overrun by gangs. So for you Star Trek fans out there, I like to, it kind of looks like the Borg cube, if you know that image. But basically, it was the most densely populated place on Earth. There were over 30,000 people living in 6.5 acres. So to give you an idea of how dense that population was, if you take the entire population of Texas and move them to Manhattan, where we are now, that is how densely populated this place was. It was a former Qing dynasty fortress in Hong Kong, and it was never fully taken over by British rule, but China also didn't take control of it, so it basically became a lawless place that was overrun by the mob. And of course, there was no safety codes in buildings, so it was just built up and up and up. And in fact, you know, drugs and prostitution were commonplace there. If a criminal got in trouble with the law in Hong Kong or in China, they would often escape to the Walled City to live. For those of you who have seen the movie Batman Begins, the Narrows was inspired by the Walled City. There's also been a video game, Call of Duty Black Ops, has a setting that was inspired by the Walled City. And there's a Jean-Claude Van Damme book movie, Bloodsport, and a Jackie Chan movie, Crime Story, which were also, they were actually filmed in the Walled City when it existed. So I've been watching videos on YouTube, and it's been very incredible. So the real Kowloon Walled City was actually torn down in 1994. And so now there's a park where it stood, and Ryan actually got to visit the park earlier this year. She also has a Pinterest page for the Walled City, so I suggest checking that out. And she will be signing arts in booth 2820 tomorrow from 11:30 to 12:30. So, as Ryan said, I first learned about the Walled City when I went to hear a woman named Jackie Pullinger speak. She spent nearly 20 years living and working in Hong Kong's Kowloon Walled City. The place she described sounded like a setting straight out of a dystopian fantasy. My imagination began racing, as it tends to do. I started thinking about all the different types of people who lived in the Kowloon Walled City. The street kids, the prostitutes, the fugitives, the ruthless gangsters. Storylines rose out of nowhere and wove together into a story I couldn't put down. The Walled City is told from 3 perspectives. Jin Ling has disguised herself as a boy in order to survive in the Walled City on her own, so that's the gender-bending part of the book. Jin Ling is searching for her sister, Mei Yi, who was taken from their farm, and she's held captive at a brothel. And Dai is a boy with a tragic past, and he has his own life or death mission. So there's these 3 characters, their lives intersect in different ways. There's a real ticking clock, and it makes it a really page-turning thriller. Human trafficking is a theme as well. And of course, there's a very sweet romance, although I'll say that isn't the driving part of the story. I really think that the heart of the story is a moving and powerful book about sisterly and brotherly love. I think this book should appeal to both boys and girls, and it's a perfect book club pick for adults as well. So I mentioned that this book is kind of genre-defining. It's not meant to be historical fiction, although it is based on a real place and the history of this place. Ryan's instinct was for this to be a realistic thriller set in a fictional world. But the Blade Runner-like setting will appeal to fans of dystopian fiction as well. I was talking to some publishing fans about this, and we're like, so I said, it's not historical fiction, it's not dystopian, and we joked that maybe we should create a new category called dystopian or dystory. But I think what really excited me about this book is it fits into a type of book that is working right now that people are loving to read, but it's totally fresh and different at the same time. If I had to categorize it, I would call it a thriller. And I think it'll captivate you from the first line. There are 3 rules of survival in the walled city. Run fast, trust no one, always carry your knife. So during the editing process, Ryan and I discussed what line to walk in terms of reality versus fantasy. And in the end, we decided that although technically the book takes place in a fictional world, we wanted it to feel authentic enough so that someone who actually perhaps even lived in the walled city would feel like it was true to that place. So we actually found a reader who grew up not too far from the walled city, and she helped us with a lot of those cultural details. And I think you'll find the world building is really vivid and excellent. I have been looking for a commercial project that features a multicultural cast, and I love the Asian setting, the all-Asian cast, and I also love that this is a really universal read that will appeal to a wide range of readers. In fact, I think that the love we've gotten already for the book proves that. This is a book that the literary world and agents were really anxious to represent. She immediately got 6 offers of representation before choosing Tracy Adams as her agent. And as Tracy said, I was not about to let her get away. So I wore my heart on my sleeve and told her what I'll tell you. This book took my breath away and my sleep. It's honestly been a while since I've fallen this hard. I hope you will too. And fall in love I did. Of course, at Little Brown, I have to make sure that our acquisitions committee also falls in love with the book. We have various marketing, publicity, and sales folks all weigh in on our books before we acquire them. I will say that it's relatively rare that it's a very unanimous decision, and I think rarer still that the word love is actually uttered at this meeting from everybody at the table, and that's what happened with this book. In fact, our marketing director at the time, she was saying, well, there are some marketing challenges because if the setting doesn't take place in a brothel, then they're on a drug run. She said, but I don't care. I love it. So we ended up winning this at auction. The Walled City is a standalone book, but we did sign up 3 books with Ryan because we see her as such a brilliant author to grow on our list. So whether you're currently in a reading slump or not, I guarantee that this book will break you out of that and will be unlike anything you've ever read, and I hope you fall in love with it.